The Golden Skateboard is $1,500 and is apparently faster than the most expensive car in the game. Yep, that checks out. But I want to find the fastest way to move because going fast is important for reaching deals, picking up product, and evading these slow-ass cops. So I tried every vehicle, hidden strategy, and exploit to find the true fastest way to travel in Schedule 1. And you should stick around because this does change massively based on your stage of the game. First, we need to establish a baseline. So one of the most common routes in the game is going from the bungalow, your first real house, to the barn, which is conveniently all the way on the other side of town. And there's also a dead drop point at the church right next to it. You need to drop money in here to get product, which makes it a pretty useful model for our tests. For every vehicle in the game, I ran this route. Up the bridge, through the stoplight, turning right here and then left at the hardware store, and then down the road and into our gravel driveway, which in the worst car in the game took in my best run 43 seconds. Which brings us to the cars. So in general, the consensus I've heard is all but one of the cars in Schedule 1 are trash. But we need to test for ourselves, so for each car I did 3 timed runs, and I took the exact same route every round so that the test would be fair. Sometimes checkpoints would spawn, which meant I had to wait like an entire day to keep going, but once I was done, I took the average of all 3 tests. And I'm gonna save you some massive time because here are the results. Obviously, the most expensive car, the Cheetah, was the fastest, and the least expensive car was the slowest. However, these results don't tell the whole story, so let me give you the highlights. First, the shitbox is terrible. It's slow and has no storage space, so don't buy it. The Bruiser was also hilariously slow and will tip over if you turn too fast. The Dinkler was also sad, especially up inclines, and doesn't have that much storage to make up for it. I unfortunately bought this car in my first playthrough, so we're just gonna get rid of it. The Hound Dog, which is very expensive, was pretty fast and looks clean, but there are 2 cars that completely stand out. The first is the Viper, which I've heard most people agree is the best vehicle to buy for the money. It had an average of 34 seconds to finish and goes ridiculously fast, like faster than the Bruiser and Dinkler, and it's got some junk in the trunk, oh yeah. It has a lot of storage space, it's a thick boy. And of course, the Cheetah that not only goes incredibly fast, but seems to have better handling than most other cars in the game, with my fastest time easily breaking 28 seconds. But it turns out there's a stat spreadsheet for all of these cars that I want to show you. And I just want to point out that the Viper is better in every single category than the Dinkler, including storage, despite being $6,000 cheaper. Maybe it's because it makes you look like a pet. But now I want to get to the interesting part. The skateboards. So the word on the street is the Golden Skateboard is faster than every single car. Now the way this works is jumping on the skateboard gives you a little bit of speed, and the Golden Skateboard never loses that speed. So if we just keep jumping, we get crazy momentum that, here's a side-by-side with the Cheetah, shows it's clearly faster at top speed. I've been scammed. But I also tested the Golden Skateboard on our route so we can get a clear picture of how it compares to the cars. So my first few tests went pretty poorly, especially around turns. It's just, yeah, this is a skill issue, but I eventually found this really nice line where you jump the curb, aim for this gap, and shoot right through. And then I kind of goofed and got off the skateboard and walked to the door for a time of 30:39. Gravel, if you don't know, will slow us down, but it turns out that we can keep hopping to get right to the door, that I was able to do consistently for a 30:79, which means you can probably get lower. Now my average across all the tests, I did a bunch, was 32 seconds, and here's where that would rank compared to the cars, making it faster than most of them. However, I also tested the other skateboards, and well, it was really sad. The second most expensive skateboard, the Cruiser, took 54 seconds on the same route, and all the other skateboards did worse, with the cheap skateboard just about as slow as walking. Now, why do these boards suck? So I think it's because they don't keep speed from your jumps like the Golden Boy does, which makes me think it's going to get nerfed. But the cheap boards feel like I go faster for a second and then return to normal speed, making them all pretty much useless. Now, before we move on to the good stuff, what about the real question? Is it ever worth it to buy the Cheetah, given that it's only a few seconds faster than the Golden Skateboard? Well, I think the answer lies in how you're going to use it. Because for one, the reason the board is doing so well are these long stretches where we can pump and dump. And so theoretically, the Cheetah will always be faster for every short drive because it accelerates way faster. But the skateboard also requires you to be a real gamer. It's not hard to control, it's just it's hard as fuck. And the board will get stuck on any small ledge or bump, which means you have to jump at the exact right time. But the Cheetah will also have trouble fitting into small areas that maybe the skateboard can fit through. So when you're rich, the Cheetah is the fastest vehicle, and it's maybe worth it even just because it's easy to drive and it looks really cool. But before then, the skateboard is incredibly cost efficient, and the Viper is just the best car in the damn game, both of which you can get for a quarter of the price of the Cheetah. But we're not out of strategies yet, because now we have the mixes. Obviously, in Schedule 1, you can mix products together for new effects, and usually this affects our customers, but it turns out we can get high on our own supply. I introduced to you the Stealth Mix, which starts with Granddaddy Perp that I showed you in my last video I forgot how to make it. Where the f is it? Okay, it takes one energy drink and one paracetamol and spits out Granddaddy Fuel. Now, the important effects are athletic and anti-grav that do what they sound like, make you faster and jump higher. But the reason I like it is it makes you sneaky. It increases the time you have before a cop realizes you exist. They should really fire these guys, and we can actually test this mix using our route. Now, I'm gonna take a couple of shortcuts which require an exploit that I'll show you later, and I know this might seem unfair for the test. I mean, you definitely can't do that with a skateboard, right? And in total it took us 46 seconds, which is as good as the shitbox. However, this mix has some advantages, like being able to get over terrain that both the skateboard and any car would struggle with, increased control because you can turn any way you want, making it very useful for reaching deals, and in particular by using the game's teleport mechanics. Let's say we want to get from the main town to the docks. Usually we'd have to drive all the way around, but with this mix, we can just jump up here, launch off, get as far as we can to the teleport trigger on the other side, and we magically appear at the docks. And the same can actually be done in reverse, which is pretty easy. And it turns out that the Stealth Mix also interacts with the skateboard, giving us way more height on every boost. It doesn't increase your forward speed, unfortunately, and it makes it more likely that you get bonked by something above you, and it also requires some specific inputs because your board will tilt down during your descent. But I tested this and it got a 39.57, which is 10 seconds slower than without the mix. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Now, I mentioned I had already put this mix in a video, but immediately after I clicked publish, someone in the comments mentioned Dealer's Dash. That, the commenter claimed, makes you as fast as the Golden Skateboard on foot. Now, this mix is basically the same thing as before, but with green. Where's the cashier? And for that, we need one of those, one Viagra, and one more energy drink, which gives us the effects energized and athletic plus sneaky. So we don't get anti-grav, which for some reason won't go away from my last high. So for this run, I'm just not gonna jump. And while I felt pretty fast and it allowed me to do this sick drive-by, the final time came to 47.03, making it just as slow as the Stealth Mix. And I found out later why this happens, but at this point, the only thing I had left on my list was a series of exploits. So I wanted to do some research to make sure I wasn't missing anything, so I started searching through the Schedule 1 Discord and YouTube to find anything that will make us faster. And the first thing I found out was that energized and athletic effects don't stack. Shout out to this guy, which is why that second recipe was no better than the first one. But I did find a bunch of people doing what I can only describe as Schedule 1 parkour. So first off, it turns out that spamming jump on an incline lets you gain a bunch of height, almost like anti-gravity, which I did know already, but people found all these really interesting lines that let you get across town really quickly. Now I have some skill issues, but I was able to hit some nice parkour moves that all rely on what is fundamentally an exploit, which means it might get removed. But super jumping will be useful at the very beginning of the game, when you have no skateboard or mixes to gain height. And although it doesn't make you very fast, it does look very cool. But I also found out a couple weeks ago from one of my comments that you can super jump basically anywhere. I found this video in my research that shows the technique. You hit space twice as fast as you can, and this gives you a super jump without any incline. And we can combine this with any mix in the game that gives anti-grav to scale buildings in one jump, which is how I cleared that building earlier in the video, which will definitely make some routes faster, but apparently had no impact on our test route, as our time was basically the same as when we just ran there. But now we have the big exploits. So the first one is basketball boosting. If you grab a basketball, put it below you and hold space, you will glitch up into the air at a blazing speed. And we can actually combine this with the golden skateboard to cancel the rise and fly to our location, which is insanely OP. Yeah, it doesn't get you very far, and I think the hope with this strategy is that you get a lot of height and then skip to your destination, but in this test, we're spending so much time gaining height that it's really never going to be worth it. You can also do this on any space with a little bit of headroom, but this resulted in a weird glitch where I got off my skateboard and was sent into the stratosphere. I think I broke the game now. This also requires you to have a basketball at all times, which is really annoying. But because we can do the same glitch without a basketball by spamming space on this light thing, trust me, I'm doing it right now, well, you can actually store these jumps by bringing a car over beforehand and getting in, which I tried to use to fling myself to the barn, which didn't work. Or you can use this bus stop, which is way easier. So I timed my run from my very first jump, spammed it as much as I could, and then flung myself to a pretty precise height before dive bombing with the skateboard and got a 2791, which is 0.04 seconds faster than the cheetah, until I got off my skateboard and was sent to heaven. I shouldn't be using exploits. If I missed something, let me know that I'm an idiot in the comments, and subscribe for more high quality Schedule 1 content. Or just click here for a video that's actually useful.